Good evening. Thank you all for turning out for this, I think, very important press conference. And to start us off, I'm honored to have Speaker Pelosi here with us today to address this national public health crisis. It's clear that the VA can't do this alone, this committee can't do it alone, and I truly appreciate her commitment and support as Congress continues to address the effort, or to make the effort to reduce veteran suicide. And so without any further delay, I want to bring Speaker Pelosi up to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor to be here with our distinguished chairman, Mark Takano, ranking member Rowe. Thank you both for the relentless drumbeat on actions on behalf of our veterans and leading up until now, and certainly today. Our Congress and our country are grateful for your laser focus and that of the full committee reconvening this first hearing on the scourge of veterans on bipartisan. We want to act as much as possible in the most bipartisan way possible for our veterans. We stand here today building on our tradition in a bipartisan way from former ranking member Walz's bill, the Clay Hunt Suicide Awareness Act, which had strong bipartisan support and was signed by President Obama in 2015. We're here with members from both sides of the aisle and from every corner of our country, because this crisis isn't about politics or partisanship, it's about patriotism. 7 veterans take their lives at VA facilities. 7 veterans took their lives at VA facilities this year, 3 of those in 5 days, including one today. 20 veteran service members, reservists, and National Guardsmen succumbing to their invisible wounds every day. A veteran suicide rate that is 1.5 times higher than the civilian rate. This is an unconscionable, urgent crisis requiring immediate action. This crisis is more than statistics. It is about stories. The stories of the invisible wounds of war. This heartbreaking crisis has touched countless communities: Atlanta, Austin, Nashville, Yountville, California, and beyond. One is too many. One is too many. That is what our former ranking member Tim Walz, now governor of Minnesota, had always said. That is our creed. That is our call. Tonight's hearing will be the first of many actions taken by the House. Our work is not done. The House will continue to come together, again, putting aside politics and partisanship, to ensure both VA and the Department of Defense have the resources they need. We will ask tough questions and ensure robust oversight of both agencies. We will continue to listen to our veteran service organizations who represent the voices of our veterans. We will continue to listen to the loved ones left behind and community leaders. Just as the military leaves no one on the battlefield, we pledge to leave no veteran behind when they come home. Thank you to each and every one of the members who are here for their leadership, but we all are grateful to our true VIPs, our special guests who are here today to testify to the need that we have, the challenge we face, and the opportunities that are there for us. Again, not just addressing the statistics, but the personal stories attached. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Rowe, both of you, for your leadership. I yield back.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Speaker Pelosi. Thank you. Thank you to everyone for joining us today for this important press conference on an issue that should be alarming to all of us, and that is affecting so many of the brave men and women who have served our country. Veteran suicide. America is facing a national public health crisis. That's the somber reality. Every day, 20 veterans, service members, reservists, and members of the National Guard die by suicide. And I'm saddened to learn of another suicide which occurred this morning at the Cleveland VA Medical Center. It is clear to righting this wrong. In fact, it's my #1 priority in this Congress. We've taken the first steps to address this crisis by holding a bipartisan roundtable with members and key stakeholders and requesting more data from the Government Accountability Office. But that's not enough, and that's why we are here today. I'm proud to say that tonight we will be holding the first committee hearing on veteran suicide in this Congress. But this hearing is only the first of many steps we must take together to curb this national crisis. If we're really serious about reducing veteran suicide, we need to bring everyone to the table. We need to listen to veterans who are survivors of suicide. We need to speak with families who've lost loved ones to suicide. This isn't an issue VA can solve alone. Over the past 2 weeks, committee members have introduced bipartisan legislation to begin addressing this crisis. Representative Rose from New York introduced a bill requiring VA to provide more data on veteran suicides. Representative Brindisi, also from New York, introduced legislation requiring a review of training, workload, and staffing at VA centers. And Representative Lamb of Pennsylvania just introduced a bill to ensure VA's holistic health care programming is available and accessible for veterans wherever they are. Ensuring that veterans and service members have access to resources, resources and support they need will require collaboration between various committees in Congress, and that's why I'm working with my colleague on the House Armed Services Committee, Chairwoman Jackie Spear, to bring VA and DOD together for a joint hearing on suicide prevention. While Congress works on solutions to ensure that the services and resources veterans and service members need are effective and helpful, we must also do our best to reach out to those loved ones we are concerned about. Today and every day, we need to take the time to call family members, friends, and neighbors and check in with them to show them our support. I encourage any veteran, family member, or friend concerned about a veteran's mental health to contact the Veterans Crisis Line at 1-800-273-8255. I want to give that number for the Veterans Crisis Line again. 1-800-273-8255. Find out how you can be there for veterans in crisis. And I want to give the website, BeThereForVeterans.com. Again, BeThereForVeterans.com. It's all up to us to reduce veteran suicide. We need to listen and truly be there for our veterans. We need to look for and recognize the warning signs and end the stigma surrounding mental health. And most importantly, we need to act. The committee is ready to do just that. And now I'd like to recognize Ranking Member Dr. Rowe for his commitment to making this truly a bipartisan effort, and I want to thank him for being an ally in this fight. Dr. Rowe.
Thank you, Chairman. I am a U.S. Army veteran, a physician with over 40 years experience, and one of the great tragedies that's occurring in America today is our mental health crisis. And it spreads across not only the VA, but across the entire society in the United States. Whether it's opioid addiction or a mental health crisis, we do indeed have a crisis in losing the number of people that we are. I was at a staff meeting last September, and asked my staff, I said, how much money did we spend in 2003 on mental health issues at the VA? And it was about $2.3 billion. And I said, well, how much are we spending this year on mental health? It was about $8.6 billion. And I said, well, what's happened to the number of veterans dying each day? It had not changed one bit. So in all that money and resources, I said, why don't we do something different? And we held a roundtable, the first roundtable last September, in a bipartisan way, as the speaker pointed out. And by the way, this is an American issue, not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is an American issue. And we looked in my state of Tennessee, and the Guard leader there, General Haston, in 2012, the first 45 days he was in charge of our Guard in our state, he had 4 suicides. He jumped into action and started a program there which has lowered the suicide rate in our Tennessee Guard by 69%. So we need to look at innovative ways like this that local communities have been successful, and can we scale these across the country? I very much appreciate the attention that you all are bringing here. And as the chairman said, if there's a veteran out there watching and you need help, please reach out now to someone who can help you. At this time, I'd like to introduce our conference chair, Liz Cheney.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank the speaker. I'd also like to thank the chairman and the ranking member of the committee, and all of my colleagues who are gathered here today. You can see that this is a bipartisan issue. There's absolutely no question but that we owe every freedom that we are able to exercise, every freedom we're blessed with, we owe to the brave men and women who put on the uniform and gone to fight on behalf of all of us. And in the same way that we as members of Congress have an obligation and a responsibility to ensure that our armed services and that our military has the best and most effective and modern equipment and weapons, all of the resources that they need in order to make sure that they prevail. In the same way that we need to make sure we don't play politics with our budget issues that have to do with funding the military, we can never play politics when it comes to our nation's veterans. And you've seen the tremendous work that's gone on in this body, both when Chairman Rowe was chairman of the committee and now under Chairman Takana, to make sure that that's the case. We've also seen important work from the White House on this issue. We've seen President Trump's executive order on combating veteran suicide, an executive order that recognizes that this is not an issue that the Veterans Administration alone can solve, but that we have to have our communities involved, we have to have our local groups and organizations involved, and the President and the White House are absolutely committed to this issue as well. So it is a crucial issue. It's one that we, when our veterans return home, and we have promised them every sort of treatment and medical care that they have earned, it is an absolute tragedy when we have a national crisis dealing with veteran suicide. And we all have an obligation, no matter the party, to make sure we deal with it in a way that is nonpartisan. So I want to thank all of my colleagues who are here today, and I'd like to now turn things over to Representative Brownlee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. First, I want to share my deep sadness and extend profound condolences to the loved ones of those we have lost to suicide, and particularly today's suicide. Each and every one of these precious lives represents a heartbreaking tragedy for families, for friends, for communities, and for our nation. A tragedy we can and we must address. I want to echo the message of so many of my colleagues. The veteran suicide epidemic is a national crisis, and we must treat it like one. One life lost is one too many, and the tragedies we have seen in recent weeks show even more clearly just how urgent the work is that we still must do. As chairwoman of the Health Subcommittee for the VA, I am committed to working with my colleagues to win this fight. Our hearing tonight will continue our focus of drilling down on the steps we need to take as a nation to ensure that our veterans who have served us so selflessly return home to the care and services they have earned and deserved. Tomorrow, the Health Subcommittee will also be holding a legislative hearing to move forward new bills to help us further understand this crisis and our nation's response. I know the members of the full committee, including our chair and ranking member, are dedicated to uniting our partners and working hand in hand with VSOs, the mental health community, and others so that together we can tackle this horrible epidemic. I also want to highlight an aspect of these tragedies that is sometimes unknown and often overlooked: the unique challenges faced by women veterans. Women veterans are 180% more likely to die by suicide than civilian women. And the suicide rate for women veterans is growing 30% faster than for our male veterans. However, the research has been clear: when women veterans use VA services, their risk of suicide is significantly reduced. Unfortunately, only 1 in 4 women veterans actually receive their care at the VA. So we need to do more to identify and break down the barriers to care to ensure the VA is a safe and welcoming environment for all veterans to receive the support that they need. This is something that has been and will continue to be a priority for all of us here today. So thank you, all of you, for being here today. I believe this is a problem that is heartbreaking but solvable, and we need to continue to drill down until we get it done. And I will just conclude, as the chairman of the committee said, as the ranking member, and as so many, is there's no single cause of suicide. No single organization can end veteran suicide. Everyone has a role to play in being there for our nation's veterans, and I'm pleased we are united in our determination to address this epidemic. And now I have the honor to introduce the gentleman from Florida, Representative Billaracas.
Thank you. I just want to let you know that all of us in this committee consider our veterans, of course, our true American heroes, but also our priority in the United States Congress. And those who have been victims of suicide, our veterans, are heroes as well. And I hope that the family members realize that. We consider them heroes as well. Folks, I have been working on this for years and passed legislation with my fellow members with regard to alternative therapies, access to alternative therapies, bringing them into the VA. And we have a 30-month pilot program passed through legislation, 18 hospitals throughout the country. We need to expand that because I've spoken to veterans, and the veterans tell me that these therapies actually work. We're talking about yoga therapy. We're talking about art therapy. And art, the true art therapy where you draw, but also accelerated resolution therapy, which actually works for some veterans. One size does not fit all. Service dog therapy. As you know, service dogs are miracle workers for our veterans. They actually save lives in some cases. So we've got acupuncture. We have to make sure that our VA, our communities offer these therapies for our veterans. The transition piece, we worked on the transition piece last year, and we've made some changes, and of course in the TAPS program as well, and we're going to do more this year in a bipartisan way, because this committee has a tradition of working in a bipartisan manner, and under the leadership of Chairman Takano, we will continue that. We've done great things under the leadership of Chairman Rowe, Dr. Rowe, and we'll continue to do so. This should be a top priority, but again, we need to listen to our veterans. And I know that Chairman Takano will have people, even this evening, I'm sure, veterans testify, because they know best. And we've got to tackle this issue. It should be a top priority, and I know it will be for this committee. Thank you very much. And now I have the honor of introducing Representative Rose from the great state of New York.
Thank you, Chairman Takano, Ranking Member Rowe, for your commitment to addressing this critical issue with the urgency and seriousness that it deserves. Because every veteran struggling with the mental and physical scars of war who die by suicide are just another casualty of combat. So we need to put the same attention and resources towards keeping our soldiers safe on the battlefield as we do supporting them when they come home. And as we were painfully reminded just this month, when 3 veterans died by suicide on VA campuses in the span of 5 days, and a 4th just today in Cleveland, Ohio, we all need to do more. The VA, Congress, all of us. So as a vet and a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee, I introduced a bill that is a key first step in addressing this crisis, the Fight Veterans Suicide Act. This would require the VA to report critical information on attempted or completed suicides on VA campuses directly to Congress. Having these key data points would help Congress fully understand the scope of this crisis, because we need to know this information so we can better serve our fellow veterans in need and help ensure the VA has the necessary tools and resources to fully and comprehensively address this crisis. I'd like to thank my fellow committee members, Representatives Susie Lee and Gil Cisneros, for their strong support of this necessary effort. As you can see here today, we want to help. Congress wants to help. We all want to ensure veterans have the support and resources they need when they need it. So I look forward to continuing this important work. Thank you all for being here and for helping address an issue that needs serious attention. And now I'd like to introduce Representative Bust.
Thank you, Representative Rose. I'm Mike Bost, and I'm from Southern Illinois. I'm a Marine. I'm proud to serve on the Veterans Affairs Committee. 20 veterans commit suicide every day. But currently what we're doing isn't changing those numbers. We're putting money in. We're doing certain programs, but for whatever reason, those programs are not achieving the goal. As it was said here before, 1 is too many. 20 is way too many. And what we need to do is start thinking differently. As one member said up here a while ago, we need to start looking at every program that's out there to have an all-in strategy, because each veteran's issue is different. We need to be able to look clearly at those numbers. President Trump took action last month on this issue. Congress needs to act as well. That's why we're here today. We're acting in a bipartisan manner. Veteran suicide isn't a Republican issue, and it's not a Democrat issue. It's an issue of our American veterans, and we need to do something, and we need to work together, and that's what our commitment is. I'm proud of the work we're doing, and I'm looking forward to our hearing tonight. They deserve our help, and they deserve it now. And it's my job now to turn over to Representative Underwood.
Thank you, Chairman Takano, for calling this important hearing to focus the committee's resources on preventing veteran suicide. Suicide is a public health crisis that is long overdue for a full-scale, society-wide response. The Surgeon General released the first national strategy for suicide prevention in 2001. VA estimates that over 100,000 veterans have died by suicide since that time. We must empower the VA to fulfill their mission of caring for former service members and focus on evidence-based ways to combat this crisis. I'm a nurse, and I believe in evidence-based, data-driven policymaking. It's clear that efforts to combat veteran suicide need to ensure that the existing resources dedicated to suicide prevention are effective and high quality so that we can save lives. That's why I'm proud to introduce the Veterans Care Quality Transparency Act, which will address a vital but overlooked part of veteran suicide prevention. By increasing transparency and evaluating the effectiveness of VA's agreements with outside providers for suicide prevention and mental health services, my bill will ensure that veterans are getting the high-quality care that they earned. I thank the chairman for prioritizing this bill and giving it the attention it deserves by including it in a legislative hearing later this week. I want to acknowledge, too, that my legislation is part of a much wider effort by this committee to address veteran suicide. I commend my colleagues who have reaffirmed their commitment to this issue and who are treating it with the urgency and resources that this crisis deserves. I'm looking forward to learning more in tonight's hearing about how we in Congress can work with the VA and public health experts to address veteran suicides. And now I'd like to bring up Representative Roy.
Thank you, Representative Underwood, and I'd like to thank the chairman and the ranking member for bringing us back on a Monday night to focus on this important issue, and then starting this week off on something that is so critically important. I'm blessed to represent Texas 21, which includes San Antonio, often known as Military City, Joint Base San Antonio, significant VA assets. We have the Army Futures Command and a significant number of veterans, somewhere around 70,000 veterans in Texas 21. And we know the toll that suicide is taking. In fact, all of us have been spending the last 2 weeks mostly back in our home districts, and I'm sure their experiences were much like mine. I had about 15 meetings and different gatherings across the district, including the memorial service for Lieutenant Colonel Dick Cole. you might know was the co-pilot for Jimmy Doolittle and the Doolittle raid. And so we spent a significant amount of time talking about the success of that raid and celebrating that. But getting pulled aside there and at every single meeting I had throughout the district, the issue of suicide of our veterans came up. Every single one. It's impacting our veterans directly, but it's impacting our families, our communities, because all of us, all of our families are being touched by this. So this is something that I'm very happy to see such bipartisan willingness to work together to address this important issue. That in this town, at this time, that this is an issue that deserves the kind of bipartisan effort that we see here today. With that, I will turn this back over to the chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman Roy.